I'll just get right into it. I know it's only been 2 months, but right now I feel incredibly confident when I say that Blue Fire is my game of the year. Blue Fire is the 3D platformer with controls and level design similar to A Hat in Time, but it's also being called the 3D Hollow Knight experience. Really, that's the thing. Blue Fire is one of those special games that just feels like it was made with everything you love in mind. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the inspiration of Blue Fire, why it's my game of the year, and why it felt so comfortable at an instant in my hands. Let's get into it. So as I just mentioned, people keep calling this game inspired by one classic or another, and it's because of that I'm going to make the ultimate comparison to Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight is famous for its buffet-style experience, bringing back all your favorite things from classic NES titles like Megaman, DuckTales, Zelda 2, and Mario 3. To me at least, Blue Fire is what Shovel Knight would be if it took inspiration from more modern titles. You got the Hat in Time platforming, the Hollow Knight character designs and charms, the Symphony of the Night Dracula's castle map, Dark Souls death and level up systems, 3D Zelda Dungeons, and a simplified Devil May Cry combat system. All this inspiration makes Blue Fire a game that almost any player can quickly relate to, which is something I really think the developers were going for. Blue Fire isn't a game I would recommend to people just getting into video games. Rather, it's an experience for veterans who just want more from their favorite titles. For me, it was the platforming that got me excited, and Blue Fire really delivers on that front. This is a game that's just fun to play, and the Void side challenges really up the difficulty and push you to your platforming limits. So that's what Blue Fire is. A non-linear 3D platformer that doesn't hold your hand, but also doesn't waste your time. For the most part. See, now it's time to talk about what Blue Fire isn't. Blue Fire isn't the most complex or interesting game. The platforming is lots of fun, but it lacks the variety to be called easy to learn, hard to master, like Super Mario Odyssey. Maybe I've just played too many platformers, but I felt like I had a good grasp of the core abilities by the time I reached the first dungeon. Now, not every game has to be super complicated with its moveset, but it felt particularly off since this game, as I previously mentioned, seems to be targeting more experienced players. The same can be said about combat. It's fun to try and dart around enemies in the air, but it doesn't always have the high skill ceiling that it probably should have. What I can appreciate is that Blue Fire actually tests your platforming and combat skills. I talked about the voids earlier, which are similar to Mario Odyssey's subrooms, and act as more linear platforming challenges, but the bosses are interesting too. The first two are pretty weak, but the last few I found to be really enjoyable. You need to move fast around these guys, and they really don't stay open for hits very long. So fun bosses, but the regular enemies are repeated a little too frequently. Each one was reskinned multiple times for different areas, and these flying guys are so annoying. If you played the game already, you know what I'm talking about. There's also a parry and shield system, but honestly, I didn't find myself using it that often. So I guess to sum up Blue Fire, it's a game that borrows lots from previous titles. It doesn't always do it as well as those games necessarily, but it does know how to make a fun game. I think maybe focusing on 2 or 3 of these ideas might have been better for the overall game, making the pacing more consistent and the mechanics more complex. For example, the game has 2 dungeons early on, and having these dungeons in a full-fledged 3D platformer is really cool. However, after the second dungeon, the game switches to a system where you instead chase down these 3 final bosses in the corners of the world. If they instead added 2 or 3 more dungeons, I think that would have made for a tighter experience. Okay, this video has lost any and all hope for structure, so I'm just going to take this time to list off some of my favorite things about Blue Fire, in no particular order. The movement for platforming consists of a dash, wall run, and double jump, which are really fun to flip between. These guys really understand the fundamentals of what makes platforming fun. I also really like the first city you visit. It feels so vibrant and different compared to anything else in the game, and it's full of NPCs to talk to. I do wish the character designs were more distinct from one another and that the story was more interesting, but I liked the dialogue and even laughed out loud a few times. I also liked how broken the game was, which sounds dumb, but hear me out. There are places you can get to way before you're supposed to, and it was super fun to figure out those unintentional shortcuts. A third and final thing is that I felt the collectibles were pretty solid. Some of the costumes are really cool, and the emotes actually had an in-game purpose. The weapons were fun to find, and the various items that you could trade for cash worked well. I will say a low point in the collectibles were the spirits, Blue Fire's equivalent to charms for Hollow Knight. They weren't very useful, and I barely used any of them until the final moments of the game. Generally, the world could have used a bit more flair is what you could take away from this section. I'm not going to sum Blue Fire up for a third time because that's just ridiculous, but really, despite its flaws, I would be very surprised if I played a game that was more fun than Blue Fire this year. Everything about it is just fun. Even at the lowest points, it's a game that I actually finished. The developers really understand what makes video games fun. Taking what they've learned from Blue Fire, I can't wait to see what they, more than any other developer, do next. Okay, everybody, end of the video time. If you have any questions about Blue Fire, you can ask in the comments. So, yeah, really, because I finished it, so if just anything about anything, if you're thinking about getting it, just let me know. And my social media links are in the description. My Discord, we have fun in there, chatting. It's very casual. Yeah, I hope you subscribe if you're somehow watching this and not subscribed. You know, I make game design videos. I do just general things about indie games, platformers, Nintendo games. Yeah, it's good time. Thanks for watching. Bye.